I can't believe 2 weeks has gone by already. It goes by so quick. Makes me sad. And and there wasn't really a lot of questions on the board for State of the Galaxy. So I'm just going to try to give a general overview. This might not really be super long, but I encourage. Oh, Singularity Spy wishes me a happy level up day. Thank you. I am leveling myself. I'm now extra old and crusty. Okay, if I sound a little bit raspy, it's because I stay up way late at night playing video games all the time. So you guys should be familiar with that effect. All right. So let's see if, first of all, who's here? I see the Skype people, but who else? SSD Ninja. Clearly the solid state drive ninja.
Flash shower here.
Yes. I see Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein. Some God of Data. So that people, hopefully people will gather and see and listen and learn. And I'm drinking a Monster because I got to stay awake. And okay, so let's just move through some of the questions here. Don Atreides from House Atreides. All right, here we go. So the first question was, these are some like more tactical questions. A starter track for Android Trial Extreme 1 and a starter track for iOS Trial Extreme 1 have been made. Is there something that the community should do next to get the rest of the levels populated? Or are we waiting for new Twin Galaxies functionality? Okay. This leads into the next question, which is the Pinball Arcade app. You know, they release one major table a month for various platforms like, you know, Android, iOS, etc. So they're always adding these levels. So, you know, a suggestion here is maybe if a person pays for one, they can buy in more future months or something. And, you know, Pinball Arcade is hot, and there's just this general issue of adding levels to tracks you've purchased. Okay, so the short answer is you don't do anything, because what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that the founders of the original game and like the first track, they can derive for free additional tracks off of that, but they will not be able to change the rules. So let's say I did Pinball Arcade, I set the game, and it's, you know, Pinball 1, whatever that particular theme is. Okay, and the rules are, you know, 3 balls, you know, no bathroom breaks, and you got to hug your mom. Those are the rules. So as long as I don't change those rules, I should be able to, as a founder, create Theme 2, Theme 3, Theme 4 under Pinball Arcade. But the rules stay the same. It's all 3 ball, you got to hug your mom, no bathroom breaks. The time that you would need to create a new or pay for a new track would be as if you wanted to create Pinball Arcade Theme 2, 5 balls, hug your dad, and you have to be continuously in the bathroom. That's a different challenge for that same level, so that would require another sponsorship. But then from that sponsorship, you could derive the other levels, 3, 4, 5, 6, as long as the rules don't change. So we're working on a mechanism that will allow the founders of the tracks to be able to add the additional levels at no additional cost. I hope that made sense. Does anybody have any questions about this?
I actually do have a question to maybe help clarify for some people.
Yes.
Now the creators of the track will be able to create all the other levels, like you said. That's pretty self-explanatory. But will they be? Do those tracks have to be reapproved by other people, or is it just once the first track on Gran Turismo is approved, the rest of them can be approved after the fact?
Well, tracks aren't, as you know, tracks aren't really approved. They're basically bought in. So,
Yeah.
so what
Sorry.
happens is when the cost of the track to the founder is 0 submission points, the minute that they create it, it will automatically forge its way into the database because it will reach its price immediately. Does that make sense?
So the additional tracks made after the point, they'll be automatic at that point, right?
Yeah, because they won't cost. It will look to see if you're a founder of the original track. If it is, the cost to you is 0. The total cost of the track is 0. Therefore, it's immediately in. However, it won't allow you to change the rules. So when you are filling out the form as a track founder, you'll see that you can change the description, which would be, now I'm changing the description from level 1 points to level 2 points. But the rules will not be able to be altered. They will have the rule set of the original track that you're deriving from as a founder. And then when you hit submit, it'll go to the database. And
Perfect.
so it's not, and when I say founder, remember the top 3 sponsors of a track become a founder. So you have the creator and you have the other people who've sponsored it in, so they also can add to. So it's whoever's in that founder list of a track will be able to do this for the rest of the track. So it's not all just up to one person.
Yeah, so when downloadable tracks come out for a game or something like that, or new tables for this game we're talking about, example, not the creator, but the highest spot, the other 2 sponsors could finish it out, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I think that helps people clarify.
Yeah, you know, the other 2 sponsors could do it as well as the creator could do it. Let's see. This might not be the most appropriate time to announce this, but I'm appearing in a new movie called Me, Myself, and Rachel and Me. That's interesting. Okay, moving on. What if founders go inactive? That's why the sponsors become important. You always are able to PM and contact each other to do that. But if there is a real big problem, like you can't find anybody and there's a lot of need and demand, Twin Galaxies, of course, will step in and take a look at the specific situation. Moving on. The Atari SC450 in 1977 is a dedicated console. Can it be a platform for a score track? Yes. If there are platforms that you want added to Twin Galaxies, just request it. And we'll take a look at the platform. For the most part, it does not hurt the database to add a platform, a legitimate platform. And we want to cover as many platforms as possible. Probably someone should start a platform thread, suggested platform, and then we can stick it, and we can always look in there for platform requests.
Channel F, baby. Yes.
So there's that. Moving on. Okay, here we go. Speedrun stuff. There's been a lot of various discussions relating to speedrun stuff, and so I hope that we're going to be able to answer the general questions about speedrun stuff, because we've been working on it. Number 1, where do I begin? All right, speedrunning, as the speedrun community defines it, will be supported as its own platform within the Twin Galaxies database. So you're gonna go, you'll go to selecting platforms, and there will be a platform in there that says speedrun competition or speedrun platform. Then when you go in there, you'll see all the games that have tracks that are modeled after traditional speedrun methodologies and ideas and things that community is familiar with. That will it will allow a speed run to be tracked across platforms. So you can specify, you know, when you're creating a speed run track, you can specify what platforms are allowed, which ones aren't. So that way you could have a Mario, you know, a Nintendo 64 or an emulation of N64, and they can both be on the same track run for speed. There's very specific things relating to speed runs in that community and the kind of things that they like to do. So Twin Galaxies is going to support that. It is not the traditional Twin Galaxies speed runs will remain as part of the normal Twin Galaxies database. So the glitchless traditional speed runs that Twin Galaxies has tracked will still remain in their normal places. It will not be part of the speed run platform because we don't want to confuse you know, the different styles and the different philosophies behind each one, because they're both approaches are valid in their own right. So so to that end, what we're doing, and this is no trivial matter, but in order to cover the speedrun community in the way that it wants to, we are adding, in the process of adding close to 10,000 permutations of speedrun tracks. It's about 3,200 games that the speedrun community traditionally speedruns on. Each game has any number of levels and permutations inside of it. And all of those have to be spelled out and modeled, and the rules and all this other stuff. And our database has to be equipped to handle the way that that gets displayed. But probably within a week or two, we will have every major speedrun track and rule set traditionally in place, so that if that community or people from that community want to submit and put their speedrun through a Twin Galaxies adjudication, which is different than an adjudication on other speedrun sites, they can, or they don't have to. But it will be there, and it's part of a service for Twin Galaxies, the community, to have that available to them if they want, if that's something that they're interested in. And as you know, we're working towards, right now you don't fully feel the effect of the player skill index, but as you hold rankings and positions on all these different tracks within Twin Galaxies, you're building up your player skill index. And if you want to do speed runs, we want your performance contribution of holding a rank in Twin Galaxies on a speed run to contribute to your player skill index. And so the only way we can do that is to make sure that we cover that. Player skill index is going to become more and more important over the course of time. And there'll be very obvious reasons why. So in any case, that will pretty much put to bed the issue of Twin Galaxies handling speed runs. It will handle the way it has traditionally handled. That will still be there. And it will also handle the way that the speed run community likes to manage itself. That will be available to them to use or not. But I think it'll add some fun and some spice to the overall scoreboard, and we're going to be able to produce a lot of interesting statistical data across all the games that everybody's playing. It's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work, and you know, for display and all this other stuff. But you know, we're excited to do it and to be as inclusive as possible. So there's that piece of it. Let me pause and just look at the chat for a second. Okay. All right, no questions in there. All right. So next things in relating to speedruns. I read on the site that some people just say, well, why don't you direct you know, Twin Galaxies can't, you know, expect everybody to just come to Twin Galaxies. Why not, you know, if people are looking for speed runs or whatever type of records, why doesn't Twin Galaxies, excuse me, just direct people to those places? Let me give you a couple of answers on this. Number one is Twin Galaxies is not necessarily a directory. It's not a way station, right? It's a place where, you know, you can submit performances and be appreciated and all this other stuff. Now, outside of that, yes, Twin Galaxies does support the video game culture and community at large. So the idea of letting people know that other places exist is fine, but that needs to be done in a way that makes logical sense. Right now, Twin Galaxies doesn't really have a section of its site set up to do that, but we will add one, which will basically be sort of, you know, here's a directory of all kinds of sites that support gaming and scorekeeping or whatever. So if you want to look, here they are, and then there's just like a place for you to go and look. So, so on one hand, let's say for speed running, Twin Galaxies will have all the speed run tracks and add them and do that stuff. So if you want to submit to Twin Galaxies, it's there. If you want to look in the directory and see where else you could submit to, here's a list of places, and we'll keep a list of them all, from Record Setter to highscore.com to speedrun.com to wherever. That's totally fine. So we'll set that up. The reason that there can't be a clear intermix between records, between Twin Galaxies records and all these other you know, places that have records, there's a very specific reason, and I'll get into that in a second, but I want to answer this question I just saw, which is, going forward, how do we distinguish what speed runs are added to the speedrun platform versus how it's set up now when creating new tracks? I feel like any tracks added to the speedrun platform need to adhere to SDA SR rules. It's pretty straightforward, which is, if you're not doing a glitchless speedrun where with a, you know, like, it's literally that, a non-glitched speedrun where everything has to be kept as pure as possible, that you just would keep in the normal Twin Galaxies track base, right? So you would find, you know, Donkey Kong, and you say you're going to have a speed run, fastest time to kill screen, right? And you're not allowed to use any kind of glitch to advance your speed. You just have to play it normally, and that's it. That can sit inside of a normal Twin Galaxies track. Anything else you'd put in the SDA section, which is fine. And ultimately, if a traditional track winds up in the XDA section, that's not going to kill anybody, because really every track just has its own rules, and as long as you're adhering to those rules of that track, where it's actually placed inside of the platform isn't as critical, as long as it makes logical sense. If you're looking for a speed run, and you find it in the speed run, or if you're looking at Mario and you see it, or like say Donkey Kong and you see a speed run listed there, okay. As long as it's not out of place, but you don't want to be, you know, draconian about that particular piece of it or confuse people. So, okay, so let me go back. Yes, in Data Guide, I'll explain the new icons on the top of the TG webpage. So let me go back to why these records can't be intermixed. Okay, it's because Twin Galaxies records now are following a very specific process of entry into the system, of adjudication, of record keeping about the record itself, and on the back end, all this there's a bunch of mechanisms going for collusion and all this other stuff that's documented on the back end too, so that you can show it. And if a record is adjudicated today as being correct, but it's later found out that it was cheating, the system is set up that when we change that record, that all the stuff going backwards alters with it, affecting all participants from front to back in real time. So all the participants in the community always have a real-time active calculation of their standing in terms of credibility, submission points, and player skill. All of that is always actively calculated. And so everybody's always motivated to have everything be as accurate as possible, because you don't want stuff changing retroactively, because it will affect you. Records that are created outside of this system simply do not affect this system. So they're not accruing any value. They can't be tracked in any meaningful way. So if we take a record from highscore.com, right, and you just say, okay, well, that's in the records, what does a highscore.com record actually mean? What is it defined as? How was it adjudicated? Where's the accountability behind it? So forth and so on. Those pieces are important, because in Twin Galaxies, we're factoring all that in terms of the entire superstructure of what's in the record, right? And really, Twin Galaxies is moving towards not just a world record place, it's a world ranking place. Because we're ranked, yeah, you can be number 1 in the world and have a Twin Galaxies world record, but you could be number 10 in a list of 10,000 participants, and that's very impressive too. The rankings are important, and the ranking that you're holding is creating like a seeding for future tournaments, all of this stuff. So it's the intermix of these records are not possible for that very reason. If you go to a site like speedrun.com, I mean, I've looked very closely at that site, how they adjudicate, what the process is. I think it's great. It's a great leaderboard. It's great, but it's not, I mean, let me be clear. If there is a game not on speedrun.com and you want to add it, you make a request, hey, I want to add it. Speedrun.com says, okay, we'll add that, Mr. X. Now you're the moderator for that game track. You're the one who's going to be verifying scores. You're the one who is going to be setting the rules, okay? So what happens there is the people who want the track become the verifiers and the moderators and the controllers of the track, which is wonderful when everybody is honest and when everybody is passionate and just wants to do right. But also, though, that can swing in a really bad way. You could have a group of people who are just feeding themselves inside that adjudication process, and heaven forbid somebody in that group hates you and you're trying to submit on their leaderboard. There's nothing, there's no formalized documented process to help, it's just, it has to be that way because it costs money. There's a whole bunch of stuff behind trying to adjudicate and do this stuff. So nothing bad on speedrun.com. They're doing great for what they have to work with and what they're doing. But when you're trying to create something where you can walk over to Bleacher Report or ESPN and say, look, these people who are achieving in this system, they're real champions. This isn't bullshit. These people are very talented. They're going to say, okay, well, prove it. Because when we look at the NBA or we look at these other sports, we have all this data that comes at us that shows, that this guy's batting average in the MLB is X, Y, Z. And they can prove that based on all this stuff, right? If you don't have any of that, if you haven't even tried to build it, excuse me, it limits your opportunities. So it's fine for other places to have records and adjudicate the way that they want to. There's great. And I, submit to them and be recognized and have fun. Twin Galaxies is a very concerted effort that has to answer over time some of these bigger questions, because we're trying to reach for a larger vision than just a small community scoreboard for a small group of enthusiasts. I think there's a lot more opportunity. You have people dedicating a lot of time to their gaming and to developing their skills. And it's hard to find a real reward for that unless you're sitting there playing on a top team of League of Legends. So, I hope that made sense. It has nothing to do with anybody thinking that they're better than anybody else or anything like that. It's just that you can't just integrate them. They're not the same. A record over at Record Setter is not the same as a record over at highscore.com, which is not the same as a record over at TG. They're all different. The conclusions, how they've come to the conclusions is different. And the way Twin Galaxies is coming to these conclusions very specifically is through an ordered process. And look, all the places might come to the same exact conclusion. It's not saying one conclusion is but Twin Galaxies is the one that actually has the full document trail, that has all this mechanics behind it that affect each other. You move one thing over here, it moves stuff over here, and that's the kind of stuff when you're sitting down with people who are talking about money, when you want to sit down with Nike or something like that and actually create an opportunity for someone who plays a video game to get a contract like that. You need that stuff. So that's why. So, all right, so let me take a quick look at the thing. Okay, first question, can you explain the new icons at the top of the Twin Galaxies webpage? Yes. You're going to see the interface of Twin Galaxies get easier and easier to use and faster. We're in this middle point. You start to see icons at the top of the Twin Galaxies page. All of the functionality of Twin Galaxies website is now contained in those icons. They're drop-down menus. You click them, it takes you to all the places that you need to go. You really don't need to use any other part of the site to navigate beyond just using those top icons to get to the sections that you want. Eventually, we'll start to remove the things off of the page to make the page easier and easier and simpler to understand. We're going to have video tutorials that helps people come to the site, understand what to do, understand how to participate really easily. We're improving on the verification process, and we can just click on the little drop down. So you're starting to see the beginnings of that movement of where, making Twin Galaxies, the site, more accessible. Totally separate, we're in the process of getting the mobile site and the mobile app under construction. Not cheap. So that you can use your mobile phone, access Twin Galaxies, have it be super easy to use, clear, you can read the forums, you can adjudicate, and all this. It's all this custom code that has to be written to do that. There's going to be this continued effort to make the site easier and easier to use. Less busy, less complicated, just easier. We've been just working on core functionality, adjudication, adding tracks, all this stuff. But we're getting to that point where most of the major features are in the site, and now it has to be refined down to a simpler, elegant form, so that's just super easy to use. And that's what those icons are starting to sort of bring to the table to make it a little easier. You also start to see, the site focus more around you as a user. So when you show up, you kind of have a wall, sort of, and you kind of have your own feed and that stuff. But that's what that is. Let me look at the questions. Abstaining about collusion and all this other. We have a system on the back end that's watching behavior of all the users. It algorithmically can figure out patterns of collusion, and there's not been any true collusion on the site. It just hasn't been. We have a couple people who like to vote very similarly and all this other stuff, but nothing that moves the needle in any significant way. So abstaining or announce, trust me, the comments that you see underneath an adjudication is not representative of the total number of participants in the adjudication. It's a very small piece. Sorry. Let's see. We're going to be adding things like when you submit a Twitch link, it will pull the file down and upload it to YouTube automatically. We want to do that for a bunch of streaming sites so that you can, so it's a little more automated that way. Is it just me, or could the new friend requests be lumped under the actual friends button? We'll see about that. One of the things I want to add is underneath everybody's profile, the ability to click add friend, so that when you're looking through the forums and you see someone and they're talking, you can click add friend, and then that sequence, you don't have to search. We want to see how all that plays out. Can there be something on the new track submission backend to either time out old submissions or allow people to delete their proposals? We'll eventually add a timeout where we'll just wipe it. But for now, it's still early enough. We're just going to just let them sit. And we'll probably just put in some sort of time period where eventually, if they don't get sponsored in, they just get deleted out automatically. So don't worry about that. SSD it'll take there. I know I'm deathly sick. No, I've just been I feel fine. It's just that I've been staying up. Like, I went to bed at 8:30 this morning. I was staying up all night this whole week. And so it just, I don't know, it's got my voice going. So does anybody have any questions on the speedrun stuff? Does anybody have any questions in general? You know, Tampa keeps bringing up a point about, you know, Twin Galaxies shouldn't say world records because it's not the world. And I tried to clarify on the site that, look, I don't want Twin Galaxies to simply say world record. I want Twin Galaxies to always say that it's a Twin Galaxies world record. Okay? Just like it's a Guinness world record. It's important. A generic world record doesn't hold a lot of meaning to me, because what does that mean? Because what adjudicated it? Where did it come from? When you say a Twin Galaxies world record today, what it means is that there's this whole process behind that record now. And that I believe that process is important for the future, for future opportunities, for the players. And so I want it to say Twin Galaxies world record. I don't want it confused with any other record from any other site or anything like that. The other sites can name whatever they want. That's totally fine. But we as a community are investing into what it means to have a Twin Galaxies world record, and I'm investing into what it means personally, and I think that does it honor, and it's you don't want to hide the Twin Galaxies part of the world record. You want to put that up front, forward facing. So Tampa, don't worry. It's always going to be Twin Galaxies world records. When we externally speak, maybe within our own site, it gets redundant because we are the Twin Galaxies site, so we can say world record inside of our own system. But outside of it, it will always be referred to as a Twin Galaxies world record. There's Rogue Infinity. Let's see. Playing track and field last night. Yes, track and field is, I think I'd love to have a track and field hypersports like tournament competition. It's just so fun to watch, and it's fun to play. And all right, so let me move on. User interface stuff. Well, we kind of touched upon that with Data God's question regarding the icons. You'll notice that there's like a little Twitch-looking icon at the top of the site. Here, let me pull it up. Hector would destroy everybody. I don't know. Can he perform under the hot cameras with everybody around him? Okay, so I'll go to the site. Let me log in. And boom. Okay. So these are the drop-down icons, menus that we're referring to. You notice I click Walter Day. It's everything related to the leaderboard, world rankings, you know, submit the score. You notice, you see it says world rankings, not world records. It's because Twin Galaxies can now rank everybody. If you hold #1, you've got the Twin Galaxies world record, but this is about player rankings across the board, across platforms, across everything. Proposed new track. Soon there's going to be a member leaderboard. And what the member leaderboard will be is you'll be able to compare yourself against other members in terms of player skill index, credibility, all this other stuff, and see where you stand relative to everyone else. And that, I think, will promote competition. Just make it more fun. Here we have a tutorial section. Right now it just links to another part of the site, but eventually that'll go to a place where there's videos. All the forums here are listed. We've restructured the forums to be simpler, and there's less of them. You have main, console, computer, and arcade, and then tribunal. That's it, man. Like, way more straightforward and easier to navigate, and these take you to the forum section. So if I want to talk about console, I click console forums, boom. It takes us over to just the console platform forums only, and then that's everything, right? So it's all much easier to do that. Friends and contacts, you can add friends. If you add friends right now, it takes you to the member list, and you can see it's a little bit Facebook-like. One of the big engineering things we're going to try to do is get rid of paging on the site altogether, so that all you have to do is just scroll down, and it's just more information instead of having to click page 1, page 2, page 3. That's more engineering work that no one thinks about, but it's just it'll make the site better. The event calendar. When you click the event calendar, you come to here. Now, remember, if you're a verified user, you can add events into the calendar. So you can promote your own events, and these events will get promoted to the front page. So I encourage you to go in and add an event to the front page. And then, of course, you see this little Twitch icon. Now, this takes you to the member live streams. And now we're going to be improving this quite a bit so that you can see who's always streaming. Oh, let's see if we can jump to it. Oh, I don't have permission because my character is not verified. Darn. I'm going to open that up so it's not just for verified users. Anyway, we're going to improve the list, but you can add your stream there. And of course, now we have the blog icon. So you can see the member blog list, your blog, how to set your blog, and you can and the blog, of course, when you enter your blog, it'll get promoted to the front page where people can see it over here in this area. So hopefully all that made sense. We've got some exciting announcements coming up. Seriously, like in the next couple weeks, 2 weeks for sure, there'll be a couple of really interesting announcements. What else? What am I forgetting? There's so many things to keep in my head. Getting rid of the photo widget on the forums and replacing it with current live stream members on TG would be much cooler. So you're talking about, so right now to access the forum archive, by the way, Data Guide, it's now listed under the blogs, right? So if you come down here, the green, you can click the photo archive, and then you can get into the photo archive. The scribe, you're talking about, I think, when you go to the forum, changing this section to live streams, active live streams, which is not a bad idea. Let me think about that. Of course, Data God won't like that, but that's an interesting idea. That is being noted. leave at least one photo square. Well, I'll try to figure out something. See, what I want to do is, which I'm not going to do yet, but what I want to ultimately do is get rid of this entire top area here, these buttons, because you no longer need them anymore because the drop downs do all the functionality. And I can put up here a really fancy slider that shows info, that promotes things. I could show latest live stream, that could show latest photo, all that stuff constantly. So it's something to think about. But I don't want to do that just yet because when you try to use this site on mobile devices, these menu icons don't, they've got some issues. And so it gets to be a little bit easier to hit some of these bigger buttons if you're not in the mobile version. I like having the photos, data God, but see, also, here's the thing. Eventually, the photo archive will go away, and you'll have more of a Facebook-like presence. So you'll be able to upload your photos sort of to your page, and those photos could be shared out as an album, but that way you could sort of own your photos in, like, it'll be better. It'll be more accessible. Slider, sort of like a sports ticker. No, I was actually going to copy the functionality of this slider that I saw called, what was it called? It was like, I called it like a, I think it was an Ajax slider. I can show you. Oh yeah, this is it. So if you look at you see how this slider can, like, it can turn, it can shift, it can cube over, you know, it can do louvers and lines, and it can carousel and dribbles. It can parallax, it can brick. Look at that. Right? So I want to put technology like that up at the top, and that will show, you know, different photos, different, you know, how-tos, tutorials, and we can get this functionality into the site and replace, you know, the current static top thing, because now we have the icons that are controlling everything. I hope that made sense. So you'd have something like that up here, up in the top there. So far, how are people feeling about Twin Galaxies? Is the site working? Is there anybody have any questions? Any sort of concerns? Doing the best that I can. There's all sorts of cool things that are about to come. Like, we're working on the Man vs. Snake documentary, right? Which I've seen this movie, and I'm working with the filmmakers. And for those of you who don't know what that is, you can go to manversussnake.com, and you can see some of the footage of it, right? Like, there's like animated sequences and all of that stuff. So it's this wonderful documentary, and so we're working to get it out into the world, and we've got this great way to bring it to the world, and I think more people are going to see this than King of Kong, and the movie itself is fantastic, and you're going to want to play Nibbler right after, that's for sure. Any updates on TG merging with MARP? I reached out to MARP, and they basically told me, we're fine. We don't want to do anything. We just want to be MARP. Someone paid for our server hosting. So they told me to go away. So MARP is its own thing, and bless them, and I don't think they want that inclusion, which is okay. Yeah, no one's trying to force anything, but I thought it would have been better. A serious question, why do you play the commercial with full swearing? Hearing Dwayne yell cork smoker is a little awkward. Well, you know, that's the way they cut it. They didn't, if you actually watch the trailer, they beep out some of it, but they leave that one. Or vice versa, I can't remember. But I'm not going to try to tell the filmmakers what to do. I'm not. So, how close are we to seeing the speedrun platform going live? Maybe just a small subset. Doesn't work that way. When we do this import, like all the data, these 10,000, it's like 10,000 tracks, man. And there's custom work that has to be done because the way some of these track information has to be displayed is you need to be able to sort of tab over and do some stuff. Give us 2 or 3 weeks to get it all totally in. Because once we get all those tracks in, then it's easy to add tracks. You know, the community can just add tracks one by one, and there'll probably be a whole bunch of errors that we'll have to fix over time. Oh, this didn't get in reported right, or we didn't do that. But just give us 2 or 3 weeks, and then we should have all of speedrun in there to the point that at least that it matters. I Pion. Great. I'm glad you watched that show. It means I can't have full audio on when my kids are around, and I'm trying to show them gaming culture is fun and safe. Well, you could tell them that it refers to a chicken and that they're smoking chickens as a stopgap measure. But that commercial doesn't play. It doesn't play as often anymore because. One thing I want to bring up is Twin Galaxies Live's programming has shifted so that when it's not doing something live like this, we are actually showing the accepted performances that the community has sent in to the scoreboard. So there's a constant stream of new content coming into Twin Galaxies that we then take and run on Twin Galaxies Live so that more people can see these performances all day long. So just know that if you have submitted a performance and it's been accepted, we're looking in the accepted forum for the videos, and those videos are the ones that get played in our programming throughout the day. And so a lot more people are seeing it. And we're increasing our distribution there's our site, it goes to Twitch, but it will also go to places in Korea. There's a streaming site called hitbox.com. We're going to be streaming to them all. So your performances are going to be seen. And this helps us build over time the appreciation for what's going on. So please submit your performances because we want to air them and show the world what you can do. You know, even better if the performances you submit actually look like a Twitch broadcast where people can see your face, because I think people like watching your facial expressions while you play and all. That has nothing to do with the adjudication though. But if it's the goal here is to elevate all the players. That's the goal. So it's just one more way of doing it. Yeah, it's no longer multiple hours of an empty room. It is now multiple hours of top video game performances that have been accepted and adjudicated by Twin Galaxies, so you know what you're watching is legit every single second. And we don't want to do a lot of repeats, and so our editors are constantly pulling these clips, editing, putting it all together so that just day after day, week after week, it's all new performances that are just coming in and being played, always. Does anybody have, what's my favorite game to play right now? Well, right now, there's three games that I play. One is Zookeeper, because I'm working up to the 100 million points. That's the goal. The other one is H1Z1, which is a zombie, massively large multiplayer game. And then I play Xandronum Doom modification, Doom 2, because it's really, really hard and really, really fun. I like games that are really challenging. H1Z1 is super challenging. It's like a troll fest. You can't go into that game if you're a crybaby. That's just impossible, because you'll just get. There's nothing there that's nerfing you, like that's protecting you. You show up, and if you could just be robbed blind. It's like the early days of Ultima Online when it was in beta. I like those harsh game environments. Do I play WoW with Alicia? No, I don't. She's hooked on Heroes of the Storm. We're forming an all-girls Twin Galaxies team for Heroes of the Storm, and she's been practicing day in and day out. She played till 5 in the morning last night, and so they're in the process of recruiting other women who want to compete in championships and actually win and take it to the maximum. And so you'll probably start seeing a lot of team broadcasts of these girls, ladies, climbing the actual Heroes of the Storm ladder in all seriousness. It's pretty interesting to watch. She's lost her mind. She's been playing this game now constantly. She's probably playing right now. What else? Do you guys play with the TJ community? Describe, listen to me. If you guys start, we have a fort, and we're forming a little group called a government. And if you start playing H1Z1, play on the Contagion server, identify yourself, and you can be with them boys, and we can go around. I'm telling you, you run around like a gang, and you just look for other people who are just unfortunate enough to just cross your path, and then it's just, you're pillaging. It's the most amazing fun. I can't even tell you. The stakes are so high because if you die, you lose like everything. So yeah, oh yeah, we definitely play with people from the community if they wanted to play. What else? Anything else? There's just hot stuff coming. The community, Twin Galaxies is steadily growing, for sure. So, and the amount of activity is just, at this point, it's pretty clear. Twin Galaxies is here, it's here to stay, it's going to continue to grow, and there are some big plans coming up to, see, you notice, we're not marketing Twin Galaxies really big out, because I want to get all the functionality finished and make it easier to use and all this other stuff first. And because the minute, we go on Jimmy Kimmel Live or something and talk about, esports and player achievement in Twin Galaxies, everybody's going to go to Twin Galaxies and go, what is it? Oh my God, right? You want that experience to be, kid gloves, baby, easy to use. And so we're trying to work up to that, to then where I can turn on some of the other powers and abilities that I have and give Twin Galaxies that focus. So just know that there's so much more to come, and I've got 9 seconds left. And I appreciate you guys watching it. And please go to the site, ask additional questions, and that's it, I'm out.
Twin Galaxies.